Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. My name is Giridhari and we'll continue today with our Uddhava-gita course. So this is class number 12 of our Uddhava-gita course, and if you want to see the entire course, make sure you just become a member of the Uddhava-gita Club by clicking on the link in the description here, and then you can access the whole course. But today we're continuing with Dattatreya's beautiful instructions where he sees in nature gurus that help him understand spiritual truths. And today we'll be learning from the wind and from the water. So we're now in verse 43, and this is happening in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th chapter, verse 43. And this is what Dattatreya says. Although the mighty wind blows clouds and storms across the sky is never implicated or affected by these activities. Similarly, the spirit soul is not actually changed or affected by contact with the material nature. Although the living entity enters within a body made of earth, water, and fire, and although he is impelled by the three modes of nature created by eternal time, his eternal spiritual nature is never actually affected. So this comparison, the sky and now the body. So what happens? We see that the wind blows clouds and storms to the sky, but the sky remains. The sky, it's not changed, it's not affected by these things that are happening over it. These coverings, clouds and rains, and whatever, these things are happening over it, this activity. The wind is because of the activity, right? Things are changing all the time, it seems. But yet the sky isn't changing at all. The sky is just the sky, and all these things are taking place over, on top of the sky. And then he says, just like that, just as you can look up and take that lesson and then see how these things are happening, and it seems like the sky is changing, but the sky is actually not changing all the time. It just appearances. Just like that, that's happening with you. So you are the soul. So the soul is the sky here, and all these things are happening. You're inside a body, and all these things are happening to your body constantly, at every moment. All these things are happening. But yet you, me, soul behind here, we're not changing. We're the same. Nothing's changing within us. So that's a great, simple, beautiful, isn't it? Just a beautiful, simple explanation. Look at the sky and you remember the sky is always there. Same qualities, nothing's changed. And then here as well, I'm the same soul, even though all these things are changing here. Really good instruction. Purport. Although the sky appears to be affected by the mighty movements of wind, rain, hurricanes, lightning, and thunder, etc., the sky, being very subtle, is actually not affected. But it is rather the background for such visible activities. Similarly, although the material body and mind undergo innumerable changes, such as birth and death, happiness and distress, love and hate, the eternal living entity, the real you, the real me, is merely the background for such activities. The spirit soul, being most subtle, is not actually affected. So you'll see this instruction. It's a little hard to understand at first. It takes a little thought to understand, but in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also emphasizes this point, that the soul is unchanging, which is a little weird. Like, well, how can I be unchanging? I'm changing all the time, right? You're like, something's happening all the time with me. But no, it's the soul is unchanging. So all these changes are just superficial. They're not actually changing who you are. You're the same soul that entered this material creation eons ago. Even though you've reincarnated, millions of times, whatever, and everything you've gone through in this life, in this incarnation, but you're actually the same soul. The soul doesn't change. It's weird, like you have to think about it a bit. It's not immediately graspable. But you don't change, you're immutable. Matter changes, right? In matter, it's the opposite. Things are always changing, right? Nothing stays the same. You know, the atoms are kicking about, things are decomposing, being remade, rebuilt, torn apart. So things actually never stay the same in matter, right? It's always different. Even though it looks the same, like I can look down and, oh, my tablet looks the same, but it's obviously not the same. Like stuff is happening, stuff is degrading, decomposing, changing. But with spirit, with God, with soul, unchanging, eternal. It's not that you're going to transform. It's not that the soul's going to wither out, fade away. It's not that God is going to become weak. You know what I'm saying? So that's, in that sense, it's eternal, immutable. The spirit soul is not actually affected, only due to misidentification, key word in spirituality, misidentification. You identify it incorrectly. Only due to misidentification with the superficial activities of the body and mind does the soul undergo terrible distress within the material world. And that's why you'll see that a spiritual practice is to make yourself step back, to become the witness. So you're no longer feeling involved. You know, you don't put yourself in the surface, you step back, and that's as you progress spiritually, you have this ability to like observe your body, observe your mind. Even in modern psychology, they're all telling you that you're not your thoughts, you're not your emotions. You just have thoughts and emotions, but they're not you. Don't identify yourself with your thoughts and emotions. This is just basic psychology. And you know, if that's true for emotions, can you imagine your body? Obviously, you're not your body. You're not the things that are happening to your body. You're just the witness. Drashtu, you're just witnessing it. So you just, more and more in spirituality, you have this ability to witness. And this gives you, you know, keeps your mind stable, keeps you sane, you know, gets you through the tough bits, because it's like, oh, it's not really me, it's just happening on the surface. I'm actually inside here, untouchable within me. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya has pointed out that the individual living entity must struggle to revive his divine spiritual qualities. So yeah, we have to struggle to revive our true spiritual nature. The living entity is part and parcel of the supreme entity called Krishna, and as such, the individual soul is also a reservoir of godly qualities. The personality of Godhead, however, automatically manifests these qualities without any hindrance, whereas the conditioned soul, that's you and me, must struggle to revive such qualities. Thus, although the personality of Godhead and the personality of the living being are eternal and transcendental, the personality of Godhead is always supreme. By realizing all this with clear intelligence, the conditioned soul can rise to the spiritual platform. Okay, Lana, let's take instruction now from water. O king, remember Dattatreya is speaking to a king. He's speaking to a king that asked him to enlighten him, who noticed that he was an enlightened sage, even though he was wandering about kind of like a crazy person without following any social norms, but he picked up on it that he was actually an enlightened soul and asked him to enlighten him. So he says, O king, a saintly person is just like water. Like, what? How can a saintly person be like water? Because he is free from all contamination. So that's one thing, water, right? Nice clear water you use to wash yourself, to become yourself free from contamination, right? You use water. So he's like water because he's free from all contamination. 2, he is gentle by nature. Isn't that great? Water is gentle, right? It's nice. It doesn't hurt you to put water in your hand. So gentle by nature. 3, and by speaking creates a beautiful vibration like that of flowing water. Isn't that great? It's very poetic, it's very beautiful. So when you see water, you can think of saintly person. So, like, frees you, cleans you. A saintly person cleans you, purifies you. Right? You see this kind of expression of cleanliness, of purification comes up a lot in spiritual. Like, the idea is we're contaminated by material consciousness. So we have a contamination. We're not thinking straight. We're covered with stuff that isn't us. So that, right? So that's kind of makes sense. Right? So you have to clean, you have to remove the coverings. Remove the coverings. So you need, so what do you need for that? You need water. So what's the water you need to remove the coverings of the soul? You need a saintly person. You need somebody to bring you this beautiful knowledge. Somebody who is already practicing bhakti yoga. That's what you need. You need a yogi, a bhakti yogi, to help you get access to this knowledge. And that will purify you. That's what happened with me. So I got in touch with these beautiful bhakti yogis. And now I've been purifying myself, and now I can lead others in the same journey. Same point, you just pass it forward. Just like water, you have water and you pass the water forward. Everybody gets purified. Gentle by nature and by speaking creates these beautiful vibrations. These are beautiful vibrations, right? These are just amazing vibrations from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are beautiful, like the beautiful sound of a river, of a stream, beautiful sound. Just by seeing, touching, or hearing such a saintly person, the living entity is purified, just as one is cleansed by contact with pure water. So the idea is just to being, this is greatly emphasized. This point is greatly emphasized because that's the first step in the spiritual journey, satsanga. First step. Because how are you going to start if you never meet somebody who's already on the path? So you're not going to guess. You're not going to, like, on one day just wake up and guess all these things. Oh yeah, my soul, God, Krishna. No, you won't. So somebody has to give it to you. You have to have contact with someone to give it to you. So this is greatly emphasized, the importance of just being in the presence. It's just like you're so fortunate that you can be in the presence of somebody who is sharing with you. Not that I'm so special, I'm just saying that what I'm bringing to you is special. It's not that I'm thinking I'm so special, but I've met such special people. I feel blessed I've met these people. They shared it with me. And that's what you need. So this is like super, this is number one step. This is how it starts. You have to be in contact with a practitioner, satsanga, or else you'll never know about it. And thus a saintly person, like a holy place, purifies all those who contact him or her because he or she always chants the glories of the Lord. And in fact, when we talk about a holy place, because we definitely have that concept, right? In the Krishna tradition, you have Vrindavan, the birthplace of Krishna. So very important, Mathura, which is next to it, where he will spend some time. You have Dwarka, you have Jagannath, his famous Jagannath Puri. So when we talk about a holy place, by the Rikashrama and the Himalayas, but if you look further, what the spiritual tradition, what the masters will tell you, like, the holy place is useless if not for the holy people there. Yeah, that's what they say. They say that if you go to a holy place and you don't get in touch with a holy person, then it's just like, they have this funny verse. He says, you're just like a cow. Just like a cow. Because, cows will wander into these holy places. They don't get any benefit from it. So, it's just like a cow. Or an ass, they say. A cow or an ass, donkey, an ass wanders into a holy place. But if they're not actually in touch with a holy person, learning from the holy person, taking instruction, really doing satsang, then it's pretty much useless. Of course, you'll see some other verses saying how even just to be there is amazing. Okay, But it's amazing because of the holy people there. It's amazing because the tradition is alive there. It's amazing because there you so easily get in touch with the knowledge. You see, that's why it's amazing. It's not, just the actual geography of it. It's because you're in touch with something deeper, with people who are practicing, because the culture is present. This is a very important point. And of course, why is it important to be in touch with a saintly person, with a practitioner? Because he's doing kirtan, which is what we're doing here, kirtan. This is kirtan. Kirtan means speaking, singing about God, glorifying God. Anything that's the message of God, the name of God, and you're singing it, you're speaking it, this is all kirtan. So the steps, spiritual steps is Shravanam, listening, reading, receiving, Kirtanam, second step, sharing, speaking. Very nice. So now we've learned about the wind and the water. Let's look at this purport now. The word apam mitram, just like water, can also be read as agan mitram, which means that the saintly person purifies all living entities by accepting them as mitram, or his personal friends, and saves them from their sinful reactions, agat. The conditioned living entity falsely identifies with his gross material body and subtle mind, and thus falls from the platform of spiritual knowledge. A conditioned living being is always lusty for material sense gratification, and if he or she does not acquire it, he or she becomes angry. Sometimes he is also obsessed with fear of losing his material gratification that he or she enters a stage approaching madness. A saintly person, however, is like pure water, free from all contamination and capable of purifying all things. Just as pure water is transparent, another comparison not made in the verse. Just as water is transparent, a saintly person transparently manifests the personality of Godhead within his heart or her heart. Such love of Godhead is the reservoir of all happiness. Water makes a most pleasing vibration as it flows and cascades. And similarly, the sound vibration from the Lord's pure devotee, who is saturated with the glories of the Lord, is most charming and beautiful. Thus, by studying the nature of water, one can understand the symptoms of a pure devotee of the Lord. So that's also beautiful. I've always appreciated and meditated on this concept of transparency. It's a very important concept, transparency. Why? Because again, it's not about the guru. It's not about, especially when I'm doing my job and you're doing this, it is not about me. It's about what I am bringing. So the more transparent I can be, the more I can let this beautiful knowledge, this is coming straight from Krishna, right? He's citing it from Dattatreya, straight from Krishna, beautiful purports by the followers of Srila Prabhupada. So all this wonderful stuff, all this, these jewels of knowledge, I have to let them shine through me. I can't let myself get in the way. So transparency is something I've always meditated on. I always try to be as transparent as possible. It's not about me. So as you go, and then you share, because I want you to share it as well, right? It doesn't stop here. You have to share it as well. So as we keep sharing it, remember, be transparent. As much as possible, just take it and give it without twisting it, just putting something, a different spin on it, doing something crazy with it, changing it. No, just be transparent. Just pass it forward. Of course, with technology, it's easy. You just pass the link. So there's nothing can be changed. But as you produce, later, as you become inspired to also share it with others, make sure you're as transparent as you possibly can be. Verse 45. Saintly persons become powerful by execution of tapas. Austerities, translated as austerities. Difficult word to translate. Tapas. I like translating tapas as grit. I think it's a great transition, grit, because tapas means grit, means you're sticking to it. That's what it means. Austerities means something bad, like we all hear about fiscal austerities, right? Especially in this current economic world situation, you hear a lot about austerities. So it's a bad word, right? You suffer with austerities. It's like you can't have what you want, right? You have to cut back, you have to have less, right? That's what austerities means. Having less, suffering, not having joy, all these things are austerities. So, not the right word. Because really what it means is, tapas means grit, means that you stick to your path, you do the right thing, and you're not swayed from the path either because it's too difficult or because, there's something more pleasurable to do. Excuse me, something more enjoyable to do. You stick to it. Grit. So I like grit. Anyway, excuse me. I probably shouldn't be recording this, but I like it so much and I don't want to skip a week, so I'm recording it. But anyway, so saintly persons become powerful by execution of grit. See, I'm sticking to it too much. I should have oh no, I'm sick, I shouldn't record some today. But, I feel great, but, so I'm sorry for the coughing. Their consciousness is unshakable. See, grit, unshakable, they stick to it. Their consciousness is unshakable because they do not try to enjoy anything within the material world. So you see, they stick to it. They're not deviated by sense gratification. They're like, oh, this will be more fun. I'm just going to do this because it's fun. That's not tapas. So the tapas is the opposite of being guided by, just whatever I feel like doing. Oh, this is fun. I'm going to do it. That's not what a serious person does, and much less a spiritual person. We're guided by Dharma. We're guided by Bhakti. We're guided by what's best for me, the soul. Not what's best for me, the body right now, but what's best for me, the soul, eternally speaking. That's what guides a spiritualist. So that's grit. Stay on the path. So they do not try to enjoy anything within the material world. Such naturally liberated sages accept foodstuffs that are offered them by destiny, and if by chance they happen to eat contaminated food, they are not affected, just like fire, which burns up contaminated substances that are offered to it. So now he's comparing the saintly person to fire. So first he compared the saintly person to water, and now he's comparing it to fire. And he gave an example which is appropriate for the kind of lifestyle that Dattatreya had. Dattatreya was a wandering mendicant. So what does that mean? A wandering mendicant is a person who is, obviously you won't find many of those today because society is too organized and structured, just too much, we can't allow for that anymore, so you won't find that anymore. Like society doesn't accept anymore. In India, you can still have it. But, outside of India, cultures who didn't have that before, they're certainly not going to have that now. So the idea is a wandering mendicant would just walk around, like Dattatreya, he just walks around. He's like, remember the king's song, just walking around. He's just wandering about. He's not going anywhere, he's not doing anything, he's just wandering about because he's just in spiritual ecstasy and bliss. He's just wandering around. And in this culture, people would see this person and, they would have a little food. Hey, please, sir, take this, Remember, they didn't have plates. It was just like a little, banana leaf. So it's easy. You just have some stuff at home and or a little, a little pan of, it was discarded, bowl of ceramic bowl that's just, you can just discard. I used to, in India, I would go there and you would eat and you just crush the bowl. You just throw it in a pile. It would just become ground dirt again, and somebody else would get that dirt and make, in the future, make another bowl of it. It's very ecological. So, you don't even have to wash it. You just or banana leaf. Many times I ate off banana leaves. And of course they would eat with their hands. So, it's great. No dishwasher. needed. So anyway, so they would just come with something like that, completely disposable, recyclable. Please, sir, take this food, And sometimes the food, might be contaminated. Maybe it was sitting around for like 3 hours, before he passed around and they offered the food. They weren't like, oh, I should have thrown this food away, whatever. So then in that case, he's like fire. He'll take that food and he says, it won't disturb him. But what we can take like in more like today's terms is that sometimes saintly person gets contaminated by something he sees on the internet, some nonsense you have to hear, something you have to endure, like a toxic person in your life. And then you just take that and like fire, just burn that up. You just burn up the contamination and you're not affected by it, So that's what you'll see. You'll experience this. Where like, toxic people, bad things, nasty stuff that you might see and hear, and just burn up inside you because your consciousness is elevated, your consciousness is fixed in God and your soul. You're so fired up with your Dharma, you've got so much tapas, your path is there, so the stuff that comes doesn't really affect you because nothing can get you out of your path anyway. Imagine like a freight train coming full speed and then you throw something at it. Nothing happens, right? It's just a giant freight train, like you throw like a baseball or something, I don't know. Even if you throw like something hard, like a big rock, it doesn't make any difference. The train is just, it's going on its path and it's not going to stop. So in that sense, saintly people are like fire. So now we've compared, we've learned, we've taken spiritual lessons now from the sky, from the wind, from water, and from fire. It's brilliant. It really is just amazing, these Dattatreya teachings. Let's read the purport here. The word Uddhava-bhajana indicates that a saintly person eats only to keep body and soul together, and not for sense gratification. One should eat palatable foodstuffs to maintain one's mind in a cheerful mood. However, one should not eat luxuriously because this will cause sex desires and laziness. So they have this idea, it might be true, I don't know, that if you eat very opulent foodstuffs, then you would get fat. And because you're fat, this idea I would pressure the sense organs, like the sexual organs, and you're going to get lusty. It's kind of true, right? I don't know. I think it's plenty of like lusty, skinny people. But anyway, it's just an idea. But the point is, like, if you're into like just enjoying your senses and you're just eating like that, like, so much into your senses, then obviously you're going to be into that for all the other senses as well, right? The eyes, the ears, the sense organs, the sex organs, like everything else. So like that kind of mentality, that kama mentality, it's kama, K-A-M-A. So that's what it's translated as lust, but it's like just the desire for sense gratification. Of course, that's not the path of yoga. The path of yoga is Dharma. And in the path of Dharma, you can eat nice things. I eat nice things, But in the path of Dharma, so it's not too much, not too little. It's not stuff that's outside of Dharma. It's like I won't eat, any kind of meat, fish, or eggs. I won't eat anything with alcohol, because so within Dharma, I'm sticking to my, tapas. I'm sticking to. There's plenty of yummy stuff that I could see, and no, but that's got eggs. I'm not going to eat that. That's meat. I don't even like. I'm not even that attracted. I'm not even attracted. So I'm not. But. I would be before, right? I used to eat these things before, and alcohol, not interested. And somebody says, oh, this drug, you'll feel super cool with this drug. Sorry, it's outside my Dharma. I'm not interested. I'm on my Dharma train here, my Dharma freight train here. So like this influence is not going to get me out of my tapas train track. So my tapas train track, I'm not going to be deviated. So within that, though, there's nice things, of course. So, you need nice food. It's normal. All spiritualists you go to, the celebrations, spiritual festivals, there's wonderful food. So it's nothing that you can't eat nice stuff. It's just that you won't deviate yourself from Dharma, from your path. A saintly person is always a perfect gentleman or lady and is never greedy or lusty. Although Maya tries to defeat him or her by offering different material allurements, ultimately these attractive material features are themselves defeated by the spiritual power of a saintly person. So that's the point. Not going to be taken off track by any kind of allurement, right? So you'll see famous, like, right, Jesus had his 40 days in the desert, the temptations, Buddha, same story, all the temptations. We all have to go through that. All spiritualists have to, like, okay, you can just give me any temptation. Let me see if I can stick to my Dharma freight train, tapas train track here and stick to, to what I'm doing. Thus, one should never disrespect a spiritually advanced personality, but should worship him or her reverentially. To carelessly approach a Krishna-conscious personality is just like carelessly approaching fire, which immediately burns if not handled properly. The Lord does not excuse mistreatment of a pure devotee. So there's this warning, never offend a devotee, because God, it's like, the idea is like, if you have a pet that you love or a child that you love, so if somebody offends you, it's one thing. But if somebody attacks your child or your pet, then you really go nuts, right? And the idea is the same. Like God is like, yeah, if you offend God, he's like, oh, whatever, You curse God and you say stupid things about God, he's like, whatever. Because you're like his child. So if your child says something, it's like, whatever. But if you attack, I guess his dear child, like the God's like a dear devotee who's very dear to God, then God gets angry. So they say it like that. So you have to be careful to be very, just to honor and to, not offend the Lord's devotees. Anyway, so let's end here. Thank you very much for your time, for your patience. Have a wonderful day with lots of peace and lots of love. Hare Krishna.